Okay, so you know how sometimes there are these names you hear and they're kind of surrounded by like a buzz,
Yeah.
a certain weight, and you hear stories and you're like, what is going on with this person? Well, today's deep dive is about a name like that. Someone who went from the whispers to like full-blown screaming headlines. Eugene, BigU Henley Jr., the Los Angeles Times just dropped this crazy report. We're talking serious allegations, and that's what we're going to break down today.
Yeah, and crazy is a good word for it because we're dealing with a federal indictment here.
Oh, yeah.
So right off the bat, it's serious stuff. RICO charges, alleged embezzlement. We're talking donations from some big names in the NBA. And get this, even accusations of extortion targeting celebrities. This case is wild. It's like a glimpse behind the curtain of how influence, sports, and crime all get tangled up together. And sometimes not in a good way.
Like a web. Okay, so for everyone listening, just so you know where we're getting all this from, our deep dive is built around this really in-depth news report from the LA Times. They lay out the whole federal indictment. And what we're going to do today is really dig into these accusations, figure out the legal stuff, especially the whole RICO thing, and try to understand how influence, tons of money in sports, and possible criminal activity all ended up colliding like this. And just to add to the craziness, it's not just Big U.
Right.
The report says there are 18 other people who are allegedly members of the Rollin 60s Crips facing charges too.
It's a big one, a big operation they're alleging here. It's not just one person.
No, not at all.
And this Big U, he's not some new face either.
Oh, yeah.
Nope. The Times paints him as someone who's been a fixture in both LA gang life and the entertainment world for a long time. Like, he's almost legendary. You have to understand that backstory, all those layers.
That's what makes this whole thing so fascinating, right? This juxtaposition that the Times lays out. On one hand, he presents himself as this community activist, right? Founded this organization called Developing Options. Sounds positive, right? But on the other hand, you have these really serious accusations, like the government saying he's a leader in the Rollin 60s Crips. It's like, how do those two things exist in the same person?
Yeah.
And, for years, there were always these stories, almost rumors, about how celebrities and athletes would have to check in with Big U, especially if they were doing anything in certain parts of L.A., like South Central, almost like an urban legend, right? Did you hear those too?
Definitely, definitely. But what this indictment suggests is that those stories, they might not have been just stories. Like, there might have been a very real reason for those check-ins, and it probably wasn't friendly. What they're saying is that it was basically a protection racket. Like, celebrities allegedly had to pay Big U just to attend events or do their thing in certain areas and not have bad things happen. It's kind of a scary thought, isn't it?
It's like a whole other world operating in the shadows. And the Times actually quotes someone, a cooperating witness.
Oh.
Yeah, they said that Big U was like the unofficial gatekeeper when it came to celebrities being able to access certain areas or events. That image is so powerful, And what it says to me is that this system, this alleged system, was built on fear. If you didn't get Big U's approval, you were worried about the consequences. And it sounds like he knew that and used it to his advantage.
Leverage that fear. Yeah. Like, he was turning fear into a kind of currency.
Exactly. So in this alleged shadow world, Big U's approval meant something. It had value. And it was supposedly all tied to these gang connections. But then hold on to your hats, because the story takes an even wilder turn. And it involves the NBA and some seriously messed up donations.
Oh, yeah. This part is shocking.
It is. It's like shocking doesn't even cover it. We're talking about ShaquilleONeal. We're talking about Draymond Green. Big names. And they both made donations, $20,000 each, to Big U's nonprofit, Developing Options. I mean, you assume they were doing it for the right reasons, to help the community.
You'd think so, right? But that's not where the money went. Not according to the Times report.
No.
No, the prosecutors are saying that instead of going to those community programs, that money went straight into Big U's own bank account. That's a huge betrayal if it's true, especially when you're talking about charitable donations. People give that money to help others.
And the Times really lays out the specifics. They say Draymond Green's entire $20,000 donation was gone, like transferred out almost right after you wrote the check in August 2019. And Shaq's donation, which was supposed to go to both Developing Options and this youth football team, the Crenshaw Rams, that money allegedly ended up in Big U's pocket too. It's a lot of money.
It is, yeah. The report says over $100,000 was allegedly taken from nonprofit donations in total.
Wow.
It's not just a little mistake, it's a serious amount of money that was supposed to be for the community.
Right.
But the sports connections don't stop there, do they?
No, they don't. Not even close. Now we're talking about allegations of extortion involving a professional boxer. It just shows how deep this whole thing supposedly went.
Really deep.
And this is where it gets kind of movie-like, you know?
Yeah.
We have this boxer, they call him AB in the report, and he allegedly cheated some NBA players in a dice game.
Dice game.
Yeah, a dice game.
Okay.
And we're not talking small change here. Millions of dollars. And Big U's alleged reaction to this, he sends his associates to threaten this boxer, to scare him into giving the money back.
So he took justice into his own hands, allegedly.
That's what they're saying. And it sounds like he wasn't shy about it either. The Times says he was allegedly bragging about it,
Yeah.
even naming amounts, like $1.5 million from a current NBA All-Star. Get this, $5 million from a former All-Star.
$5 million.
$5 million, allegedly. And then, for his trouble, for resolving the situation, Big U supposedly charged a cool $100,000.
Yeah.
It's like those rumors we always hear about, those whispers of fixers and shadowy figures in the entertainment and sports world. This story seems like it could be ripped right from those whispers.
It makes you wonder, right? Like how much of this stuff goes on that we never hear about. It's a whole hidden world.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about the power some people have, even if it's not official. You know, they operate in these high-stakes worlds where there's a ton of money and maybe not everyone wants to do things by the book.
It's an interesting question. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and focus on the legal stuff, on the RICO charges. This is really the heart of the government's case, right? For those who don't know, RICO stands for the Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it sounds serious. And the Times says that it was originally meant to take down organized crime like the mafia. But it seems like it's used for a lot more than that now, right?
Oh yeah, much more. It started with the mafia, but now it's used for all kinds of criminal enterprises. We're talking street gangs, white-collar crime, even corrupt politicians. It's a pretty wide net.
So like anyone who's part of a group that's doing illegal things.
Pretty much. But there are two key things the government has to prove to get a RICO conviction. First, they have to show that a criminal enterprise exists, like an organization with a structure, even if it's not formal.
Like a gang, for example.
Exactly, like a gang. And then the second thing, they have to prove a pattern of racketeering activity.
Okay, hold on. What exactly does racketeering activity even mean? Because that sounds like something from a law textbook.
It basically means a bunch of different crimes that fall under the umbrella of RICO. Things like wire fraud, extortion, bribery, drug trafficking, even murder. To get a RICO conviction, the government has to show that the people involved committed at least two of these crimes within a 10-year period, and not just randomly, but as part of the criminal enterprise. They have to show a pattern of behavior, that these crimes were all connected.
So it's not about individual crimes, it's about showing that they were part of a bigger plan.
Right, exactly. And the penalties are no joke either. The Times mentioned up to 20 years in prison just for RICO violations. And if the murder charge sticks, Big U could be looking at life in prison. It's a huge deal.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that they went with RICO, it means they're serious. A federal RICO indictment is like the big leagues.
Like they're playing hardball?
Exactly. And there's this quote in the Times from a former federal prosecutor that really stuck with me. He said, if the feds are knocking on your door, they're not asking, they're telling you. They already have you dead to rights.
Oh, wow.
That gives you a sense of how strong they think their case is, right? They don't go for RICO unless they have a ton of evidence. We're talking surveillance, wiretaps, witnesses, financial records, the whole 9 yards. They've been building this case for a while.
So this is more than just a hunch. They think they got him.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The Times is saying that this whole case could change how we think about the relationship between street influence and celebrity. Like it's exposing this murky world. And then you have Big U in the middle of it all. This guy who is supposedly a respected community leader running a nonprofit, but also allegedly this criminal mastermind. It makes you think, right, about how these different worlds, they intersect, they collide.
Definitely. And he managed to exist in both for so long, allegedly. And a big part of that was his access to celebrities and athletes. Think about the power dynamics there. Why were these people dealing with him? And what did that access give him?
Yeah, like how much influence did it give him in different circles just because he knew these people, because he had access to them? It really makes you think about the power of access, how being close to fame and fortune can be used in so many ways, some good, some not so good. And if all these allegations turn out to be true, it's a pretty strong warning, a reminder that no matter how influential you are, you're not above the law.
You're not exempt. And the fact that Big U is still out there, they haven't found him yet, it adds this whole other level to the story. Like, it's not over yet.
Right, it's like a real-life manhunt.
It is. And the indictment itself, the fact that they charged him, it sends a message. The Times put it perfectly. No one is untouchable. It's also a reminder that the way investigations work these days has changed. You've got wire transfers, digital footprints, all this technology that makes it harder to hide.
So much harder to get away with things.
Exactly.
All right, so let's wrap this up. In today's deep dive, we took a look at this Los Angeles Times report about Eugene, Big U Henley Jr., this major figure in L.A. who was connected to both the gang world and the entertainment industry. And now he's facing some really heavy charges, federal RICO charges. And these charges are based on some pretty disturbing allegations. We're talking about stealing donations from NBA stars like Shaquille O'Neal and Draymond Green, donations that were meant for community programs.
Those programs never saw that money.
No. And then there are the allegations of him running this extortion ring, targeting celebrities, being this so-called gatekeeper, deciding who gets in and who doesn't. It's a lot.
It is. And let's not forget the alleged extortion of that boxer who was cheating NBA players.
That one was wild.
It shows how deep these connections went, allegedly. And those RICO charges, that's the government saying this wasn't just a few isolated incidents. This was an organized, long-running criminal enterprise.
That's the key, right? A pattern of behavior. And what's so fascinating about all this is that Big U had this public image of a community leader. He ran this nonprofit, Developing Options. But if these accusations are true, he was also the head of this criminal organization that was taking advantage of the very communities he claimed to be helping.
And using his connections to celebrities and athletes to enrich himself, it's a complex story.
So complex, and it leaves us with a lot to think about. Like, in a world where influence is so powerful, where people with money and fame hold so much sway, what are the real dynamics at play? Who are the hidden power brokers, the gatekeepers?
Yeah.
Who has the real control?
It's a question worth asking.
And it's a question that this case might force us to answer. And for you listening at home, I want you to think about this. How much do we really know about the people who hold power in our society? And how can we make sure that that power is used for good, not for exploitation?
That's the big question, and it's one we all need to be asking.
All right, well, that's our deep dive for today. We'll be back next time with another fascinating look at the stories that matter.
Until then, keep asking questions.
And stay curious.
Definitely.
All right, thanks for listening.
See you next time.